Hello, Africa. Welcome to the Business Wisdom Series, Open Your Door. My name is Elton Mutize. The dogmas of the past are no longer adequate for this stormy present. We have to think and act anew. And this is a platform where we unpack issues, interrogate issues affecting the African continent. Is it possible to scale up Africa? I think it is very possible to unleash economic abundance on the continent and make sure Mama Africa gets her place in the global affairs. Today, I'm joined by Shamim Matovu, our business anthropologist in residence. How are you doing?
I am fine, thank you. How are you?
Great. Terence Chambati, our systems change agent, and many more. How are you doing today?
Very well, Elton. Thank you.
Great. So the last time when we left, we were talking about the core ideology of a business. We went far and wide. We talked about purpose for individuals, for companies, for countries. We then started touching the issue of core values, the shoulds and shouldn'ts. And to get us started with that, I wanted to just read something in Vern Harnish's book, Scaling Up. It says core values are rules. Let me just look for it. Core values are the rules and boundaries that define the company's culture and personality and provide a final should or shouldn't test for all the behaviors and decisions by everyone in the firm. Especially important for that top managers lead by example, making sure their behaviors and decisions align with the values. Perhaps a good place to start. I had behaviors, and that's your forte. Why are core values important, and why should companies have them? I think that's a discussion we want to have. And for companies and leaders out there, they can start their journey to be able to implement or discover these core values and start using them in their business.
Okay. So, do you want to come in first, or you want me to?
Go for it.
So, why core values are important is when, earlier on I said we are in business to work with people and for people, right? And so when we say your core value will determine whether, so what they say in terms of what they sanction or what should and what shouldn't, it will determine whether I am the right person to work with you. So for us consultants in business, sometimes we have these conversations about our relationships with clients of it's not just about am I the right consultant for the business, are you the right customer for me? Yes. And I think we hardly ever ask those questions.
Hardly, yeah.
True. And so I think it gives us a standing point of, okay, so how do I know you are the right person for me, the right customer for me, and I'm the right client for you? We talked about purpose. And, that's the yardstick of us understanding where we are taking our business and the people we want to come on board with us. And so the moment we are building our core values, which is actually one of the elements of business that many of us shun away from. So you hire people, they get interviewed into your business, you ask about their competence, skills, you see their CV, and that's all.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then you say, oh yeah, I hire from this school. But a school is a place where people meet to seek knowledge or to find knowledge. And so we all bring our own behaviors, our own assumptions about the nature of reality. And so it's important that then we get to decode that nature of reality at the point of action. So when you hire me, for example, I have got two of my core values that I take everywhere. That's courage and connection. Courage comes in a sense that I am not scared to challenge the status quo. If I see things that I don't understand, I will say, hey, hang on a minute, why are we doing this? So I am not a jump on the wagon kind of person. I'm okay to take the path very long on my own if I'm convinced that that is the right thing to do, all right? So the second one is connection. I work with people and, during culture design, I need to understand as an anthropologist, I'm studying people's behaviors, people's perceptions, people's histories. Why are they acting the way they are? If they are resistant to change, for example, it's not just about resistance. I need to dig deep and understand what is it about resistance that you think. Yep. Because you might think they are resisting, but they're actually not. They don't understand what you're trying to communicate, so they are not jumping on your wagon. And so for me, it's very important that I bring my courage into my space, that even when I engage with a company and we realize that the leader on the top has the biggest problem, I'll be able to sit, have a conversation and say, hey, hang on a minute. You realize you are the problem.
You're the problem.
Absolutely. So that is an element of me that I bring along in every aspect of my life for every person that I engage with, and you know, whether it's business or personal relationships. But you know, what then comes into that is, if I come into your business and I say, I look at A, B, C, and D, and then I realize you're going to gag me, because what I'm putting there is a footprint of, I worked with you to create this, to nurture this, to help your business go forward. And then you gag me for my findings, because the truth is, you will always find things that are so hard to put across, that people have perhaps seen for ages, but no one wants to talk about it because they are scared for whatever reason.
Skeletons in the closet.
Absolutely. And so I need to work in a space, and that's where I determine, are you the right client for me? Because then if my work should be impactful, that's my responsibility. As I help your business, I am also impacting society. You know, that's very important.
And the ability to be able to then say the core values then guide your decisions to say, who do I work with?
Yes.
So it's surprising when I started the scaling up journey, and one of my core values at Paradigm, or now Scaling Up Advisors, is intellectual curiosity. Yeah. We cannot work with you if you're not intellectually curious, if you do not go around, you know, this lifelong learning thing. And I discovered, the Scaling Up community and Metronomics community, they honor intellectual capitalists. Yeah. So I found them because I resonate with their value set. You're working with your banker because you resonate with what they stand for. But when I come to my world, whether you go to Zim or South Africa or even Uganda, when you walk in these organizations, some of which I've worked with as a consultant or an employee, you see these placards. Trust, integrity. Yes. And there's no action to at least embody that in the organization. Yeah. And so even the HR people, they're hiring for skills, they're not hiring for core values. I have learned more recently that you hire for core values, you reprimand for core values, you promote for core values. What is that thing you're willing to fire for or to leave money on the table because you don't want to work with that person? What are your reflections, Terence?
Yep. Elton, as you said, from that extract, the should or shouldn't, almost sounds like a cult, you know, like, guys, it's either you're in or you're out. Yeah. And I think that's what it should be. You know, you've put boundaries that this is who we are. This is what defines our organization. This is what defines us as a people, as you say. You know, and once you cross those lines, as you're saying, you will then reprimand for values. But for as long as you had hired for the same values. So it shows you that within that journey, when someone comes in, it's not about inducting this new person. Okay, John has just joined the organization. Let us show him his desk and give him his tools and let him work. The whole onboarding process should involve purpose, values, culture, and not just thrown in as words, but thrown in as phrases saying, this is what we do, this is why we say this. Some organizations, as Vern said in his Scaling Up book, they've actually invested more in, you actually take that employee, color code your workbook and say it is guided by our values. Our newsletters, titles, you can actually throw titles of your newsletters using values. So themes for the quarter, throw your values in there so that it's embodied into the employees and within the whole business. When you share those internally and externally, your stakeholders will know that this is what this organization stands for. And I want to be associated with them, either employed by them, supply them, or do you have them as
then you can start becoming a clock builder versus a time teller.
Exactly.
Because then that starts to answer our questions to say, how come other businesses endure beyond one founder? Sometimes the founder dies, goes with the money, inheritance is spread, and the company dies. But other companies keep going on. Your Apples have survived. Steve Jobs is gone, God bless his soul. But Apple has remained, and even better. Why? The rule book again, the shoulds and the shouldn'ts. They make great products for passionate people because they believe passionate people change the world. That is something that they carry on, whether a new manager comes in. So where is the challenge? Where is the cause? What is happening or what's not happening in our world to begin to solve this issue? Which organization have you gone to as you are looking for a job and you ask what are your core values, or at least study them, rarely, which HR department would say we want to know more about you, Elton, or more about you, Terence, your beliefs, the things you hold dear. We are looking for people like that, the kindred souls. It's always, what degree do you have? Do you have a master's? Oh, okay. So what do you think the cause is? Is it an educational thing? Should we tell the old leaders to go away and we bring in young Turks?
It's neither.
Yeah.
So what have we not done? So I will answer what have we not done and what we should do. The Apples, the Googles of this world that we are looking at and wanting our businesses to emulate that, right? What they are doing differently is they are hiring multidisciplinary aspect, via the multidisciplinary route. So you find a psychologist on a team, you find an anthropologist on a team, you find another social scientist on the team. All those people have contributing or having an input on one product, right? Because remember, we already say that these businesses are not just there for they are there for people and by people. And so when we talk about the human centricity of businesses, we need to think about what people can use technology for, right? And so when you bring an element of having different people and perspective in terms of thinking, it helps you understand the problem better. So we're talking about what have the HR people haven't done. HR people have done an amazing job, but we need to work with the times. What other disciplines can help HR people to do even a much better job?
To understand people, not to unlock people's potential.
Absolutely, to understand people, because you can't unlock my potential until you understand me, right? And so that's the value that anthropology brings into the setting of business, right? That because our aspect is with people, we understand people, that's what we want. We decode what you're thinking, ask questions. So rather than reprimand you for why you are doing something, I'm wanting to understand, why are you doing it that way? So in understanding why you're doing it that way, is it that the work processes are quite long, that they take a lot of time? Or is it that there is something we're spending money on that is not actually necessary? And so what we should be doing right now is to tap into other potential. So businesses have an obligation to hire experts in the field of people, like anthropologists, like psychologists, to support their human resources, which I hate to use, human relations department, to better understand their people.
Yeah, and I remember somebody saying people are not resources.
Yes.
Yep. Charcoal is a resource.
Yeah.
Okay, you burn it and you throw it away. But people, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Absolutely.
If you unlock, that person is within and embedded within your organization.
It takes us to this issue of titles, human resources, human capital.
Where did that come from, though?
Well, I guess it's the schools of thought which we've gone through, and our background in terms of education. But human resources, human capital, there's a school of thought which is now changing, going towards people experience. How can we talk about people experience within the organization? Do you guys see this growing as a trend? Can we bring this up as a trend within the human capital, human resources sector, to say you're dealing with people the same way companies have invested in customer experience? Can we start looking internally and say, let us create people experience?
But business people are very guilty. We are guilty of slapping titles and things without doing the deep work to transform. So we can quickly, now there's a whole term of HR, a business partner. We can move, the next fad could be people experience. But are people in the organizations they're working for going to experience something different? Because it's about aligning on the value sets and your purpose. You go in, you have a collegial environment, you have happy people, because happy people are productive people. Doors are open, it's human centricity. Thank you for that. I'm learning every day.
Yeah.
And isn't it more about, because business usually just slap titles onto issues, and with fads they come and go. I think for us, really going to the core and saying beyond raising capital, beyond registering a company, the first thing you need to do is to actually do a discovery process around your purpose, around your core values. There's also another book Jim Collins came up with. I think it's called Entrepreneurship 2.0. and he was learning from a professor at Stanford. He says the biggest thing the guy taught him was the value set discovery. What are your values? Because once you get that, your life will be more pleasurable, and at least you work for the people you want to work with. You will serve the clients you want to serve, not just because I want money, not just because this is the only opportunity that I have available. Yeah.
Okay, so what I can add to that is, and I think we earlier on talked about the issue of the dichotomy between academia and business.
And business.
And of course, my kind of profession, many people have always seen it as an academic profession.
True.
So ours is in the academia space, but then if you notice right now, like I say, the big organizations that we're looking up to right now and admiring, they're hiring anthropologists. And perhaps they are doing something different. But also the important aspect I need to add in that is the whole idea of human resources. And I know someone did ask me this question, that what's the difference between human resources and the work anthropologists do? The difference is in the approach and focus, right? Whereas, human resources they deal with a lot of things. They deal with your pay, they deal with your training, they deal with all those things. Ours is it's focused, understanding people, that's it, right? And so what we are saying right now is not that we are in a space of competing who is better than the other, but in a space of saying, hey, can we focus on what we are good at and let someone else do something else? So then we get the best out of our talent. That is the conversation. Yep. And so when we bring about the whole idea about academia and all this, it's much more of saying, okay, so we introduce a topic of lifelong learning. If businesses want to be sustainable and go beyond, there has to be an element of lifelong learning. As someone who has been in an academic space, you understand the value of understanding the trends of what's actually happening. Yeah. So we must pay attention to those trends, but also go beyond the trends. I will call it a paradigm shift, I think. You know, we need, it's much more of a paradigm shift of going beyond what used to be. So we're not saying what used to be is not right, but we've learned lessons and we know there are still problems. So how can we tackle these problems? We can't use the same approach to deal with problems that have been here for a long period of time.
And this is an opportune time. Yeah. Like I was saying, COVID-19 is a necessary evil. It's a blessing in disguise because a lot of other people have slowed down to start learning and unpacking and saying, what does this really mean? Do I understand people? Some of the people have had to be laid off. Even people who are in jobs are asking themselves, is this what I really want to do? I think if people start looking beyond the day-to-day bread and butter issues and actually saying the long game in terms of the legacy I want to leave, the imprint I want to leave, don't you think also the employees have got a duty? Remember, Terence was asking, who is responsible? Who is the custodian of core values? Yeah. Who should discover them? Is it the founder? Is it the people in the organization? Because these mistakes come, you're now 50 strong. Yeah. And how do we begin? You come in, where do we even start? I think the founder has got a lot to do with it.
Yeah. I think, yes, I agree with you, Elton. The founder has a lot to do with it, and it's within the coaches within the organization as well. You notice I mentioned coaches and not managers. Yeah. So the leaders within the organization should be coaching their teams on the values of that particular organization. All the way saying that, guys, we need to live these values and this is what defines us. So in coaching your members, with your team members, you live in these values and this now defines you. When it defines you, you now belong to the same school of thought, the same cult of this particular organization. So that, I think there's a lot of merit in saying that. And the whole issue of lifelong learning, have we really unpacked it? Do people know what lifelong learning means?
Learning long. I don't know. For me, it's a perspective. I think your education, what we call education, is not really education. Educo comes from the Latin word educo, to draw out. And it's about me as Elton discovering myself. So when I go to school, I'm not just getting knowledge piled up so that I can pass an exam. It's actually to unlock who I am. And I think beyond a degree, beyond a PhD, it's also about saying, how am I feeding my mind? Professional education and personal mastery. I think those two go hand in hand to say, go to bed. It's Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's business partner. Go to bed wiser than you woke up. And I think that's a simple thing. Lifelong learning is going to bed wiser than you woke up. So when I go to bed tonight, I have to be wiser tomorrow than I was.
Ask yourself, what did I learn today?
And it's a simple thing.
Yeah.
It's not just sitting down reading a book. It's even sitting down with Shamim. I learned some words on human centricity. I'm learning about business, etc. So it's about looking for those sources of knowledge, wisdom, and getting that in and going and saying, this is what I learned today. Am I a better person? Because knowledge without behavior change is dangerous. But knowledge that turns to action and brings results is really, really powerful.
But so also in terms of who has the responsibility for core values. So core values also forms part of the building blocks of culture design. And it's in the mindset, business mindset aspect. So you have the purpose and then you have your core values. And so in the process, when you start your business, there are values that you would like to emulate within your business, whether to your customers or the people that you're engaging with. But then, like I said, core values shift. We're not saying you can have the same values for 10 years, right? When things change your values. Make sure they actually speak to the people that you're engaging with. So your people within the organization actually play a part in terms of curating the core values that you want for your business. So it could be that we're facilitating a workshop and we're having conversations with people about what's important to them. What your people find important, right? And it could be that it's something that you've never thought about. It could be something as, we just want to have fun. Who said work should be boring? Work should be fun, right? And so that forms part of your values. And then you start finding elements of that fun that you would like to, absolutely. Yeah. So whether it's in relationships that you have within the business, with your clients, with your providers, external providers, or even with your customers, how do you emulate that fun in the production of the goods and services that you offer to them?
Great. So one of the core values I learned as well in the Scaling Up book was we go the extra mile for our clients. So you know those hurricanes that usually ravage the USA. Yeah. So there's a lady who needed a prescription drugs and the UPS was not working. FedEx was not working because the channels had been broken off. They literally got the CEO's jet, got closer to the place, to the state, and drove the rest of the way through the trees, through the damage that had happened. And the old lady managed to get a prescription and injected herself and managed to save her life. Wow. The money did not matter, and that was one of their values. We go the extra mile. How did they embody that? That's an example. So every quarter you're looking at examples that reinforce that. You go the extra mile. What are you doing about going the extra mile?
Yeah.
And it's important as well now to reward your team members and say, guys, you went the extra mile. Guys, this month, Elton went the extra mile. This is the reward for going the extra mile. Next quarter is a different value which you're picking up. Yeah. You know, they become living things within the organization. It has to be a living thing. And not just words, which
remember the Dream On initiative?
Yeah, but you see how it also links into having the human centricity aspect, because then you are not dealing with a customer, you're dealing with a human being. Yeah. Because in a situation that it gets into the aspect of having to understand your people, and that's even your customers. So you know that this person needs this drug to actually have a life, and if they don't, perhaps that means death. So.
And part of the discovery, beyond the conversations to say what are our values, just a research, a survey among staff, or giving them space, maybe to say what should we stop doing, what should we start doing, what should we keep doing. Getting that intelligence from your employees goes a long way in trying to understand what these people believe in. Yeah. Can we learn anything from nations in terms of who a Ugandan is? I remember a professor at Makerere says, who is a Ugandan? Someone born in Uganda? Someone who embodies the cultural values of Uganda, or somebody who emulates the Ugandan people? What can we learn anything from nations to say the Zimbabwean people, the South African people? What can we learn from tribes, from countries?
Well, the word tribe anthropologically is
taboo,
derogatory, so I will not use it. But what I think, what we can perhaps talk about that will help all of us perhaps understand and people back home is we've seen how in a situation of calamity or war, whatever, how Americans fight for their people.
Yes.
We all take pride in that, right? And so to answer your question, a true Ugandan should be one who loves their country, right? A true Ugandan is not one who is on social media to bash their country, to complain about everything that's going wrong, but one who is providing solutions. So we are talking, but also saying, hey, hang on a minute, this is the problem, but perhaps we can try this. Because every time, there are certain things we can't change. If you're born in a place, you're born in that place. So you either make it work for you, you're part of the system, right?
True.
You either let it work for you, or you cease to be a part of it. And so my answer is no, you're not Ugandan just because you hold a Ugandan passport, just because you were born in Uganda. You were Ugandan because you emulate the pride of Uganda. You know that Uganda is a pearl of Africa, and how you associate with people around you, and how you take Uganda into the spaces in which you are, and how you interact with the nation Uganda.
And you know what you should do, you know what you shouldn't do.
Absolutely.
And I love the example that I don't know who gave me, a boundary. Let's talk a football field.
Yep.
If you put those white lines,
Yeah.
the ball doesn't get out. If it gets out, people know the rules.
They'll be penalized.
So
or
you'll
they'll
be
lose
penalized. Yeah, if you tackle someone badly, you'll be penalized. You get a yellow card or a red card. But that boundary is also a boundary for your company.
Yeah.
Define what that boundary is and let people play, because people
Yes.
don't want to be managed. People need to be coached up and allow them to unlock their potential. Because if you have a team that is happy, that is unlocked, they will make money for you.
Yeah.
And as a leader or shareholder, that's exactly what you're looking for, so that you can keep on fueling your growth.
I like the sporting example and the boundaries as well. When you feel like, okay, this sport is not working out for me, cross the boundary, go and join another sport, and
Exactly.
move on with your life.
Yeah.
And something, as people build businesses, one thing is important. You're building Discover. We're building Scaling Up Africa Advisors. It's a cult.
Yeah.
They're cult-like cultures.
Yes.
You will be ejected like a virus if you do not resonate with those
Yes.
cultural norms or the shoulds and shouldn'ts. And so it's important that right from the beginning, even if it's still a napkin idea, to define that boundary. This is what my company is going for. This is the MTP, Massive Transformative Purpose. These are the core values. These are the shoulds and shouldn'ts. And we hold us as leaders and the people who will join us to high standards to make sure that that's embodied. Because once you have people working together, you know what can happen.
Yeah.
There's a
Great
lady,
impact.
she was called Margaret Mead, who
Yes.
said...
She's an anthropologist.
She is. Oh, I love her quotation. She says, I have no doubt that a group of committed citizens, a few committed citizens can change the world.
Yeah.
In fact, that's the only thing that has. And we can, when we look at the revolutions of the world and the history of and the biology of man, you know that it's just small people. If people are animated towards one thing and they are working together and aligned, they can do magical things.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that is the power of sharing values. So when you share your value sets and you have everyone else within the organization, your friends, your colleagues, know what your value sets are. Your business peers, you're going somewhere. They will know. Business referrals. I know that Shamim's business is full of integrity, and because they live the integrity, they will never do this whole issue of brown envelopes. Yes, I say it, brown envelopes. It's things where you need to bring your virtue into business.
Yeah.
Are you virtuous as a business leader? What are you doing as a business leader in terms of virtues and embodying those virtues and values? So this is something where when you live it, people will see it in you, and not necessarily you telling them that
Absolutely,
I am virtuous or I am this.
But you see also in terms of how we relate as a people, if I wanted something and you knew of a friend who does that, you're not scared of referring me to that person because you know I hold myself in a certain way. Because sometimes you know what happens with lagging back in your context, you're thinking, I'll refer this person and then they'll do crazy stuff and then it will become my responsibility. So you see how then curating your core values also becomes a personal aspect. that people will know you by your values. So check yourself in terms of what you do, what you say, how you relate with others. How does that link into where you want to go?
They say you can always see your friend or your worst enemy by looking in the mirror. So I think we need to introspect as leaders, as entrepreneurs, as citizens.
Yeah.
Africa is where it is, and we cannot be pointing fingers anywhere else. We have to point at ourselves and see how best. Maybe if we're animated and we resonate around a set of values about where we want to go as a country or as countries, as a continent, and then everything else will fall into place. I think that's a starting point. And we're talking a mini strategy safari. We can't talk strategy without locking the core ideology of the business. And I know you guys in the anthropological field say culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Absolutely.
But maybe culture equals breakfast. Maybe culture equals strategy. Because you talk about culture design, and I think that's the bedrock as well of the strategy process.
So I will disagree.
Let's pick that up
Yes.
at some other point and we
Yes.
debate it. Thank you so much for your submissions. Guys, you can see we are speaking about a very pertinent topic, core values and core purpose, the core ideology of any business. That is the foundation and the building block. For culture design, you can't talk strategy without talking about the core ideology. And that's something that you need to button up in any organization, in any pursuit before you begin, so that you attract the right people who resonate with you, so that you can go much further. Thank you so much for being a captive audience. And should you want to reach out to us, go on YouTube, subscribe, Business Wisdom Series, go on Twitter, BWS, open your door. We'll see you soon. Thank you.